When was the moment you realized that the person you were dating was an absolute idiot?
He tried to tell me we don't have proof that the world is more than 2,000 years old. I was an anthropology major at the time. Wrong person to have that conversation with.
This person doesn't even know about Pangea. The lake that he grew up on and learned to skate on apparently freezes from the bottom first, and then the ice flips over, and floats to the top. Dude was a semi-pro hockey player. Also, birds don't fly at night. If you see a bird at night, it's a bat.
This was a first and last date, but she said that she loves reading, and I asked what types of books she likes to read. She said, bibliographies. I said, so a book about other books? She replies, no, it's a book about someone's life. I also like books people write about their own lives, autobiographies. Have you really never heard of a bibliography? With an eye roll. Could have been a silly mistake, but I had to say something. She proceeded to argue with me for probably 10 minutes, even after I tried to laugh it off and change the subject. At some point, I asked her to take out her phone and Google it. And she did. After that, she straight up refused to speak to me for the rest of the meal. We did not stay for dessert.
Couldn't be in the room as I put mustard on my sandwich. Said he was afraid of mustard gas. I wish I was kidding. Should have explained to him that the dangerous gas is only produced later, when the mustard is processed in the digestive tract.
I had a moment like this in my teens, cooking some mustard chicken dish. The fumes were burning my nose and eyes, and granted, I thought, no jerks here, can't be this easy to make a chemical weapon. I still went on the computer and did a quick Google search to make sure before continuing. Smiley face.
She decided to fix a plug socket and didn't even turn the power off. Luckily, I walked in as she was just about to put the screwdriver into the back box. She got mad at me for stopping her and showed she really had zero concept of electricity at all. Edit due to comments below, this was a nice, meaty UK 230 volts. They asked me why birds don't get electrocuted on power lines, listened to the explanation, and said, no jerks here, that doesn't sound right. Immediate clarity. He laughed at my friend for not knowing a thing that I had just spent the last 5 minutes explaining to him. I was so confused. Bet if you asked him now, he wouldn't remember a thing about the subject. When she asked if the sun ever sets in front of the clouds,
he was American military, I'm British. We got into an argument because he said the USA was the only country that had been actually attacked in World War II, Pearl Harbor. We in the UK hadn't actually faced any hardship during the war. Neither had any civilians in Europe. It was just the soldiers on the front lines. Never heard of any cities or anywhere getting bombed. Nothing about the Blitz. He claimed to be a World War II expert.
Even on Pearl Harbor Day, the Japanese attacked British Malaya an hour before they attacked Hawaii. What an idiot. When she told me that the $3,000 the local council gave her to relocate got blown on worthless stuff and partying and not furniture for her next living space like they intended, and then in the next sentence, asked me what I was earning before stating she'd never worked a day in her life. Nope, nope, nope. In college, my 21-year-old, lazy stoner, unathletic boyfriend told me and a group full of women with confidence that he could beat Serena Williams in a tennis match. I thought he was joking about being a flat earther. He really was, and he was deep into it. Didn't know how deep until one of my friends pretended to believe the earth was flat, and my ex unloaded all his knowledge upon him. That was such a fun night at the bar. He told me that he didn't know the difference between the written words do and when to use which spelling. He argued it was okay though because nobody knows. His supervisor at a government agency asked him to check his grammar before sending emails, and he was highly offended. Her, when Jesus returns to earth, there won't be any more mountains. Me, what do you mean by that? Her, well, Pastor said that when Jesus returns to earth, all of our mountains will come down. Me, that's not what he meant. Her, yes it is. He said it's in the Bible. Me, it's a metaphor for the world's problems like hunger, poverty, war, and so on. If he literally flattened all the mountains, we would all die.
Her, you just think that because you're atheist. Me, broke up with her a few weeks later.
Why would you even want that? I quite like mountains. This Jesus guy needs to be stopped. He said AIDS was caused by mixing 2 different blood types. I knew he was abusive, but that's when I knew he was an idiot too.
Said he didn't know how to use a stove. Then when I would cook, he would get mad because that's not how his mom makes it.
Later, while engaged in other activities, that's not how your dad does it. Wait for the penny to drop.
His car engine was making an awful noise. I told him to get an oil change. He said no. He just had one 2 years ago. Dude does $150,000 a year with the car. He says the sound stops when he revs up on the highway. I told him to stop doing that. But I guess girls know nothing about cars, right? Edit. I do not know the English words, but he did bring it to repair when it sounded like a helicopter coming for 3 months. The camshaft was rubbing off the engine head. It took down 3 centimeters of the engine head. The mechanic was baffled.
Chocolate comes from the chocolate veins of Africa, and you cannot fly there because of the Bermuda Triangle. Whew.
When she blew through her whole $45,000 divorce settlement in less than 6 months and was complaining about how bad she needed money, all while living rent-free.
He didn't want me changing in front of my dog and glared at my dog.
I broke up with a guy because he was too jealous of my dog. He'd sit on the opposite end of the couch glaring and saying, "Wow, I wish anyone paid me that much attention when I was snuggling my pup."
Oh, you're gonna have to give us more details on this one. That's like dropping a picture of an unopened safe and bouncing. How old was this lunatic? What was his rationale? Was the dog wearing a secret camera? Was the dog a pervert? How did he attempt to justify this to you?
I worked for many years as a laser physicist. A newish boyfriend asked where the word laser came from. I told him it was an acronym from the words light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation. He didn't believe me. He Googled it and declared Google to be wrong when it gave him the same answer. I showed him a pre-internet textbook that said exactly the same thing. Grudgingly, he accepted it. He also didn't believe that lasers predated the ubiquity of the internet. He checked Google and immediately declared Google wrong because it disagreed with him again. That level of stubborn stupidity was too much to bear.
He said, "But you can still have babies, right?" After I'd told him I'd had a hysterectomy. He touched my hip bone, this sticky out bit, and asked, "What's that?" I could go on.
When he told me how stupid the post office was because they sent the mail back to our address, I looked at it and immediately noticed that he used a flag sticker, not a stamp, to mail it out.
Not dating, but years ago I had a coworker that peeled a self-adhesive stamp off from the little folder they're sold on and licked it. She gave it a funny look and kind of smacked her tongue on her lips a couple of times. Then she pressed it onto the envelope, but it wouldn't stick anymore, so bam, 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 she pounded on it with her fist. I had to leave the room. I was laughing so hard.
We were playing Trivial Pursuit with friends, and this question came up. What is the capital of Pennsylvania? I knew my girlfriend had it in the bag. Pennsylvania was her home state, and it's where we were playing. She said with confidence, New York. I chimed in, "Oh, no, that's okay. You obviously didn't hear the question. The question is, what's the capital of PA?" She said, "Yeah, it's New York." I was totally dumbfounded. He mentioned a friend of his got offered a teaching job in Korea. I borrowed a Bill Bryson line and said, "North or south?" He texted the friend to ask, then said, "South. Apparently North Korea is some kind of military dictatorship?" Then claimed I was the ridiculous one for expecting a middle-class dude with a university degree to be aware Korea was divided.
I am an American living in South Korea. Whenever I visit my family and meet new people, I mention that I live in Korea. 9 out of 10 people say North or South. Funny thing is, they're not always joking. I suppose I could just say South Korea when I bring it up, so maybe that's on me. I just think it's so strange.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.